Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 301, The Fast and the Furious Lap 13. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by 1X. 1X is an investor and asset manager that invests capital on behalf of its shareholders and clients across the globe. Shout out to 1X.
Well, shout out to 1X and welcome to a new era. This is the first full lap we're doing with the Fast 10 movie in the fold. We have done so many movies since we last talked about one of these core installments that I feel like when we do the game later, I don't remember. Actually, I can check right now. We didn't play the game since March 29th, 2 months since we did the last, which is bananas. But we've done like 150 episodes since then or whatever. But anyway, with us today to kick off Lap 13, to usher in this new era of Too Fast, Too Forever, we have of Morning Consult, Saleah Blancaflor. Hello, Saleah.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So you wrote a piece recently about the favorability. Is that the right word of these movies and how much these people love these movies in the lead up to Fast 10? And I was like, we love this. This is great. We want to talk to you about it. You got to be a big fan of the franchise. And you're like, actually, not necessarily. So, I know that, not that she's not a fan, but what is your history with these movies? And also, how did this particular assignment fall into your lap given your specific history with these movies?
Yeah, no, it's funny because the Morning Consult, I'm the entertainment data reporter, so I cover everything entertainment related, even if it's something that I might not necessarily be a fan of or something that I haven't seen, but I'm always open to everything. I feel like I'm always keeping tabs of what's going on in the entertainment world, whether it's like a franchise I haven't watched yet, but I'm open to watching everything. I think I want to see everything that I can. The Fast and the Furious was always a franchise that was on my list to eventually watch, but better. I guess there's nothing better than watching it now that I actually have the article out. But yeah, that was the biggest thing. It's like I'm the entertainment reporter. It just kind of made sense to write about it.
But until like this week, you had not seen any of the movies.
No, I haven't.
Wow.
And you asked a little bit about the history of it. It's funny because I think when the first movie came out, I might be aging myself here as like the baby of the group maybe, but I was like 9 years old when it came out, I think.
Not that much younger than us. I didn't see these until 2012, so I was relatively late to the game too. Joe's been in a lot longer than I have, but yeah. Okay,
cool. I feel like a lot of my friends that have seen it are always like a little bit older than me and were like teenagers whenever it came out. But that's good to know. But yeah, no, I think I didn't see it in theaters, like kind of being as young as I was, but I just remembered like years after, I would always just see it on like TV. Like they'd always be showing like
always
Fast and Furious movies, always. So I'm sure I caught like scenes of it while I was kind of surfing through channels at some point. And I know kind of the gist of it. The funny thing is I have actually never been spoiled about any of like developments or any like character developments. Like I know things here and there about it. I know who the actors are. I know a lot of the actors that kind of show up later on, but no like big spoilers on what goes on. Like I know it gets kind of wild a little bit later on with some of the stuff that happens in the movies, but nothing major has ever been spoiled for me. So,
well, I think what's kind of funny about the way that you enter the franchise as most people normally should, like with the first one, right? But like knowing sort of the vague things like where they go, you're like, was it hard to reconcile like knowing sort of crazy action spectacle pieces that they're going to do in the last couple of movies with just like, oh, they're just in Honda Civic stealing DVD players?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I thought it was interesting just because I guess it's kind of the build up to it. It just kind of seems like it just kind of starts out a little bit. Some wild stuff happens in the first movie, I'd say, like other movies, but I guess it's just kind of interesting starting it out where we're knowing that it'll eventually build to more craziness and like ridiculousness that happens later on. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I mean, another thing too is like, I felt like it would be kind of perfect to start with the first movie anyway, given that it was top ranked movie in our data, according to respondents. So I thought that was kind of the perfect thing, is when start at the beginning, but then also start with a movie that at least the respondents of our survey seem to think are their favorites. So
Yeah, so I found your piece because friend of the show, past guest of the show, and writer of his own esteem and regard, and has a great newsletter of his own, Walt Hickey, included your piece in his Numlock News newsletter. And I was like, because I know he loves the Fast and Furious, and I'm like, I'm sure, I'm guessing, I don't know this definitively, but I'm guessing he's like, whenever he can have like a stat-based piece of journalism about these movies, he's going to throw it in there. So I'm like, this is great. So I opened it up, and it's on Morning Consult. We can link to it in the show notes. But the thing that and I'm curious to see if this is something that trends across other franchises as well, but basically as the movies go on, the favorability drops. Like, aside from Tokyo Drift, which is hit or miss, so we can talk about that a little bit, but like literally every movie that comes out after is liked a little bit less. And do you have any insights into like, what is that something that is true across other franchises you've seen? Is that something that you think is unique to this franchise? Because like it's both sort of like understandable, but also a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like that's a trend with other franchises as well, even like superhero movies. I don't know. I mean, like my kind of, like I said, I've only watched the first movie so far, but it does kind of seem like with franchises, yeah, just like at least for some of them, especially the ones that have longer movies, like maybe some people seem less interested in them. Maybe not less interested, but maybe I guess the interest isn't as high. I don't know if that's like applied, because like I feel like I've seen a few other like long running franchises, and maybe it's just true for me at least. I feel like I am like less interested, or like I don't like I guess the newer movies. I don't know if that's just because I get fatigued easily from if a movie series is running too long or something, but yeah, that kind of I'm just kind of assuming that might be the case for these movies as like the newer ones, right? But again, I haven't seen kind of the newer ones. I will eventually, but we'll see.
When I was reading this article, I didn't think that you mentioned it, but I'm guessing maybe, probably yes. Were all the people that you guys polled, like they had seen all of the movies, right? Like that's like a good like off the rip qualifier.
Yeah, because for at least for this, when we were looking at the net favorability, we were asking people who identify as Fast and the Furious fans.
Okay.
So those are all people that I'm assuming have seen the movies as well. So that was one thing we definitely looked at. But one thing I too is wondering too with like the original movie, it's like kind of looking at it, I think, because I thought it was interesting that the first one ranked the highest, given that it's the original. And I don't know if you all kind of like feel the same way. I'd also love to hear like your personal rankings as well. But I don't know, I feel like there's always, maybe this is just for me too, is that maybe there's kind of like a nostalgia or like a love for like the first movie that kind of introduces you into like a franchise. And it's kind of like the first thing you see, and that you're introduced. Like I know that there's more characters that kind of join the series as like the movies go on, but kind of introducing you to like the original characters of like a franchise seems to be a reason why people might like love the original movie first, or like the first, because it's like, yeah, it's the first one that might have gotten them into it back when it first came out, if they were kind of like original fans of it.
That's why that's so interesting, because actually we do like ask our listeners for their rankings, and Joey actually has like the average rankings for everybody that listens and writes into us, and it does, I think, vary a little bit from what you guys got, and that was like very interesting when we were talking about the listing and reading yours.
Yes, you asked 1,242 people according to this. We've asked 80 over the course, or we've gotten results from 80. We've always historically, in terms of like people who write in, people who listen, people who join the show, it sort of separates it in two different camps, kind of. There's like the car movies, which are the first three, and then like the action movies. And like the fourth one, it kind of is like a pivot point between the two, but like 5 and beyond, it's just like, these are more about action than the actual racing, right? And so what we had seen historically is that people either like the first three because they're like, I'm really like a gearhead, I like cars, like these early movies, like no other movies are talking to me this way. And then other people like me who are like, I don't really care about cars. I'm here for the action, I'm here for the rock, I'm here for whatever, I'm here for like big explosions and going to space and whatever, right? What we found over the 80 people that we've polled is I've been Stockholm syndromed by doing 300 episodes of the show that like I think these are all perfect movies. But I think objectively, trying to remove myself, 5 is easily the best movie. I think it's like objectively one of the best action movies of the last like 10 or 15 years. And that's overall, on average, the highest rated for us. And then it's the first one. So I think the thing that surprised me, and I think probably surprised Joe a little bit too, is that 5 was lower than 2 and 4, because 2 is really kind of like hit or miss for a lot of people that are on our show.
For us, yeah.
And 4 is one that is generally like 2 is either one that people love because they love, Roman, they love Tyrese, and they love, Ludacris in there. But then people are just like, nothing about this works for me. And then 4 is like a reboot where it's basically just one again 8 years later. We really like those movies. We have guests on here who really love both those movies, but like, it surprised me that 5 was as low as it was, but maybe that's just people who don't like the direction the series went. I don't know, but like that was the one that really stood out to us in terms of like, oh, this is not exactly what we kind of, because you see a thing like this, you're like, you're like, oh, I get the gist of like where this is going to go. You're like, oh, that's actually not what I thought this was going to be. So I'm sort of surprised and not like disappointed, but like curious as to who these 1,200 people were that like don't love 5 the way that we love 5.
Yeah, no, I think it would have been interesting. We didn't have any open ends in the survey, but to like ask, if people the reason behind. I feel like there's always like reasons behind why people might like a certain series or a certain movie from a series than others. But yeah, no, I thought that was interesting. I know I also sent you, Joey, the what like the reason or kind of like the actors that people like, their favorite actors from the Fast and the Furious movies. I thought that was interesting because we also had asked, the reason why they tune into the movies. I feel like you guys kind of addressed that a little bit. And that was interesting to me because the top reason was the actors is the reason that they tune in. And then I think after that it was, it was the action, and then the cars was a third when they talked about. I know there's other reasons that were like lower, talking about like the humor, the theme of family, which I know is a big part of it. But yeah, I thought, the actors was kind of the biggest reason why people tune in. I thought was really interesting.
I think what was really kind of like, I don't know if telling is the right word, but sort of affirming about what you found is that this franchise we've talked a lot about tries to be kind of everything, like all things to all people. It's like, let's basically have an actor from every country. Let's have all these different people. And like the 50-50 almost male-female split is just like this franchise kind of is for everybody in a way that like, you're like, oh, action movies, cars, like not typically for women, but like there's so many, number one, good looking dudes in here. Number two, like genuinely, I think emotive, like good, pretty solid love stories for, at least for action movies. And then so many other things that like, no matter what your interests or your tastes are, you can kind of like attach yourself to it. So it was reassuring to show that like maybe the average age is like a little bit older than like Hollywood or Universal would like, that it's not, they're not getting as many Zoomers as they might want. But in terms of like the male female split, like there's a lot of people out there who like these movies and that identify themselves as Fast fans, and like that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, no, I think of that. Like even just kind of among, I feel like my own friends groups, like knowing the friends that are like really into the movies, it's pretty split evenly, with that. So I thought that was interesting too, and I agree. Definitely, like even just kind of when having watched the first movie, you're just kind of, it's interesting kind of seeing the characters that are introduced. Obviously, Vin Diesel's a big part of it, and I thought it was really interesting how they introduced all of these things. Like you kind of immediately get the sense of like, okay, kind of seeing where this is going. You kind of see like the relationship between Mia and Brian like starting already in the first one. So I thought those were all like interesting elements.
So I guess talking about the first movie, or actually before we get there, was there anything else about the research that you found that particularly stood out to you that you want to call attention to, that you either found surprising or like that you were like, oh, that makes sense? Like, is there anything in here? And if not, that's totally fine too. But anything else that about the piece you put together or the research that your company did that you want to highlight?
I mean, kind of going back to the actors part a little bit, I was actually, I guess I was both surprised and not surprised at the same time that The Rock was number one, because he was the number one actor that everyone kind of chose as their favorite from the Fast and Furious franchise. And I know that I feel like that one was more of like, it's The Rock. He's everywhere. Everybody knows who The Rock is. But also he's only in like 4 or 5 of the movies, right? Like, and he doesn't come until later. And it's funny because the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw ranked a little bit lower, so I thought that was kind of surprising. But I guess it's The Rock, and everyone loves The Rock, I guess. But then everything else is kind of like Vin Diesel and Paul Walker being a little bit, they were ranked after. I mean, it seems to me.
That is crazy. Yeah, now that you say that, The Rock being ahead of Vin Diesel and Paul Walker in these is pretty nuts.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you also know, just from like being a person alive in the world and like on the internet, like that they don't exactly get along.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that if Vin saw these results, he was probably not thrilled by that.
I know. And it's funny. And yeah, I was also surprised because I feel like for me, even kind of being newer to the franchise, but just when I think of Fast and the Furious also, it's like I feel like Vin Diesel is the first one, Paul Walker. But I also kind of like Michelle Rodriguez and Tyrese Gibson. Like,
yep.
I feel like they're the ones I always, I'm like, yes, they're in the Fast and Furious movie. They're part of the Fast and Furious world. So I was surprised that they were like a little bit lower too. But again, I guess nothing can, The Rock and like the recognition around The Rock. It's just kind of like a funny side thing. We all did a survey like a few months ago where we asked like Gen Z their favorite actors, and The Rock. We had a list that we presented, and The Rock ended up also on top of that. He actually reshared it on social media, which was funny. But he just like, I guess nothing can beat The Rock's popularity. Or
for years, like we've talked, a name that he has been dubbed or a title he's been given is franchise Viagra. Like you bring him in like when something's like, it's like it's beginning to like sort of like deflate. Like there's like the Mummy and there's like the whatever, and then there's like the Scorpion King, and he comes in, right? And then the Fast and Furious is like, we don't know, and then they bring him in and whatever. And we like for years, it's like you add him to anything, like he can take things that are straight to DVD and like somehow make $30 million at the box office, like his star power alone. And then over the last like 6 months, like Black Adam didn't do well, and like the XFL kind of flopped. We're like, oh, he's kind of like, we're starting to see that he's not bulletproof in a way that we thought.
Yeah.
If he can't do it, can anybody always? Right. So
yeah.
Before I actually talk about this movie, is there a particular franchise, like what are there franchises that you particularly love, that you care for, that you're passionate about? Like the way that we do 300 episodes of this podcast, is there something that you would talk that much about?
That's a good question. I mean, for the longest time, it was Harry Potter. I don't know if that I would too much now. Trying to think of more recent ones. I don't know if there's like any long
TV shows.
I don't know. I watched. I actually really love the John Wick movies. I know there's only like 4 of them now. But now
there's a 5th one somehow.
Somehow. Yeah. I don't know if you want to spoil what happens, but but yeah, no, the 4th one I ended up. It's funny because that's a franchise where I feel like I actually liked the 4th movie the best so far. Usually for me, it's like I always like the newer movies less, but that was one that I just like had a lot of fun with. But I'm also a huge like Keanu Reeves fan, so I think that is just like, I don't know, just kind of off the top of my head, I feel like I could probably talk about John Wick a lot.
Well, did you know that he's been sort of rumored for this franchise for a while now, and that he was gonna be in Hobbs and Shaw and then didn't, and then he was gonna be in the new one, and he was replaced by the guy by Alan Ritchson, who played Jack Reacher. Just like, but he's been circling, so like if he pops up in one of these movies, it would not be completely surprising, but also at the same time, let's get him in there because we love him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that would probably be one, maybe. But yeah, that's on the top of my head.
So now let's talk about the matter at hand. You watched your very first Fast and Furious movie.
Welcome,
you watched the
welcome
original,
to the family.
The Fast and the Furious. We got some games, we got some questions for you later, but initial thoughts. What did you think after 22 years of buildup? It's been sort of on your periphery for more than 2 decades. What did you think? You finally watched the first one. Initial thoughts.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with this. I definitely came in just like kind of with my brain turned off too, because I was like, I don't know, I heard that, the movies, like I said, I'm aware of like the craziness around the movies. I know that the first one probably isn't as crazy as some of the later ones. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was fun. There's lots of cars. It was definitely like a fun time.
Did it hold up to you? I mean, obviously there's some problems. You can tell when it was made, but did it hold up to you story-wise?
Yeah, no, it was, I was going to say it did feel very like early 2000s. Again, even though I was kind of like only 9 when that came out, but just having seen like other movies around that period, it definitely feels like it's like a early 2000s movie for sure.
The way that it sounds, the way the characters are dressed, the way that everybody talks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was the one
cinematography.
Yeah, exactly. The clothes for sure, the music. Yeah, and that was one thing I think like kind of starting it. I can't remember like exact quotes. Like there's a few maybe later on that I like in the as the movie goes on I do, but like it just kind of seems like at first it's like none of the dialogue seems like it's normal dialogue. Like
Yeah.
when they're first talking. Like it was like 20 minutes in.
This time, my takeaway was that there are so many lines early in this movie that just make me smile because, like, they're not normal dialogue. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, it's just like they're really dropping you in a world, and there's just so many lines that we've talked about over and over again on the show that I was just like, I love this movie. Like, I love this movie in a way that, you know, I love all the movies, but like the later ones don't. Maybe just because
It's charm. It has a weird charm, right?
yeah, but like so many different things, like all like the first 10 minutes of like them like bantering and like them at, you know, Toretto's Marketing Cafe and all the sandwich stuff. And I'm just like, something
Yeah.
about like, it feels like a warm embrace because like as we go through the lap and the movies get longer and more actiony and less kind of character focused, to come back here and be like, no, these are like 6 characters you care about that you're going to follow and you're going to whatever. It's just like this feels like home. This feels like family.
Yeah. No, I will say that what I thought was interesting about it is just kind of it feels just like a different worlds. You know, as soon as you're like getting to kind of know these characters and kind of knowing like what the plot is and everything, it just feels like a different like a world where like with all these cars and these characters. And I guess the dialogue plays a part in that as well, where none of it seems kind of real at first. So
We have, so every lap that we do on the show has a theme.
mhm.
So the theme for this lap is planes, trains, but no automobiles. So for a franchise so heavily involved in cars, in between these movies, we watch other movies, we call them pit stops, and they're sort of tangentially related, they're thematically related, they're actor related, whatever. And so this time through, we're watching movies that feature a chase sequence or a vehicle or something that isn't a car. Like literally anything else could be like a boat, could be a train, could be a whatever.
Mhm.
So we have a conversation kickoff starter field. We're going to have 2 different questions. You could pick either one. You could do both, whatever you want. But they're 2 very different questions. No wrong answers. Totally personal preference. But I have one and Joe has one. Because Joe, I like your question, but I don't have an
Ooh.
answer to your question. So I don't want to put something on the spot with that.
Okay,
So
that's fine. Yeah, fair.
I have one that's more entertainment based and he has one that's more life based. So either you can answer either question. You can also opt out and answer neither question. This is totally up to you. But this is a brand new question. You're the first person to get the question. So do you have a favorite movie that has a central car or central vehicle or action scene or set piece or whatever that has a vehicle that's not a car? So again, boat, train, surfboard, skateboard, anything like that. Just think about that for a second while Joe asks his question.
Oh, my question is, what is the favorite vehicle you've ever been in or driven that is not a car?
Mm-hmm.
Both are good questions. I'll answer both of those actually.
Ooh, fun.
I
Okay,
don't know
cool.
if I actually don't have an answer for the second one. Well, maybe I do, but I guess in terms of movies, does Mad Max Fury Road count? Because those weren't really cars; they were more of like
We have internal debates right now. There's, you know, we're in Too Fast, Too Forever headquarters. We're trying to figure out what is a car.
What is a
We don't know.
vehicle?
There's definitely
Yeah.
things in there that I would not necessarily qualify
Yeah.
as cars. They are
Yeah.
car-ish, but it's a good answer.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that one.
yeah, okay. Because I was like, it's like I guess it's like a truck essentially, but I mean, so much of it is like just like these massive like tank-looking things.
Right.
There are like motorcycles and stuff in it. So, that would probably be my favorite one. I love Mad Max Fury Road, so that will probably be my it's
Well,
Mad-
Charlize is in these movies too.
Yeah. Joe, is there anything? Or
I was gonna tell my favorite thing that I've driven because we haven't done this.
Oh,
Yet.
yeah.
Oh, we're gonna. Okay, go for it. Because
I
I've
was
been digging
thinking
through
of-
my head. I'm just like, do I have like a memory of like doing a cool thing in a vehicle? And like, I don't know that I do. But please, maybe your thing will trigger something in my brain.
Okay, so when I was a small child, my grandfather used to take me to go walk their dog along the river in Pittsburgh, where I was born. And we would go behind this penitentiary. Actually, the penitentiary from Mindhunter, the TV series on Netflix, the same one where they're all housed, the
The
actual
story's
one.
getting very dark.
No, and behind there was train tracks, and there was a train that came by, and like for some reason, like the conductor like stopped one day because he saw us walking, and he let me come in the train and like play with the conductor things, and like we took like a little. I don't know how you stop a train like that, but it was stopped. And he let me like get into the conductor's thing, and like we like rode on this train together, and it was a really cool memory.
That inspired a story for me too. So I have an answer to that
Awesome,
question
cool.
now.
Okay, cool.
So I was thinking about, because my dad loves trains. He's always been into collecting like model trains. He loves like, train.
Oh,
like,
I didn't know this.
Real
Cool.
trains, whatever.
Nice.
Like he hasn't really done train stuff, but like, also taking trains like Saleah as a New Jersey resident,
Trains are
Amtrak and
Metro
stuff. And
North
like
for me.
NJ Transit, it's just like, this is not like trains. Like they're just like, it's,
Yeah.
terrible. It's terrible. Anyway, but I've never done like a cool train thing. But I was thinking, I'm like, has there been anything like what else is like in that field? And I think it was for the 75th anniversary of G.I. Joe, maybe like in the early 90s.
Ooh.
We went to New York, I think, to an aircraft carrier where they had this like celebration. And I barely vaguely remember, but I have a t-shirt still for it. And we got like some kind of like collectible thing. But I'm just like, I don't think I've ever been on, and I don't know that I'll ever be on again, an aircraft carrier. But like,
That's
one
very
time
cool.
was on a big, 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 big boat.
That's very, very cool. I like that one. See, there you go. You have a fun one too.
Sense memory, man. It comes back. It comes back.
Yeah, no, those are fun. Now that I'm thinking about it, I have been on the back of, I've ridden the back of a motorcycle when I was in college.
Ooh, fun.
I don't know what kind. I'm not good. So that's like one thing too, is like, I'm not like, I don't know anything about cars too much, or like brands or anything.
Neither do I.
Don't
You are
need
totally
to.
okay.
Don't need to.
But yeah, I rode on the back of a motorcycle once. It scared me though. I'm not that big of a risk like taker when it comes to things like that, but it was still like a fun, like one-time experience thing that I'm like, all right, I did it. I've been on the back of the motorcycle. That's it.
I don't think I've ever been on, which I guess should surprise nobody, but I don't think I've ever been on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I've been on motorcycles.
And
Dirt
I've barely
bikes,
been on
motorcycles.
bicycles.
You barely been on bicycles? What was your childhood, my friend?
Inside playing Sega Genesis, basically.
Oh no, we were always on bikes as kids. Like beginning of the summer, end of summer, bike the whole time. Just sleep in between.
Joe, did you have any big takeaways, big things you noticed, big things that you either, in reference maybe to Fast 10, things that you saw this time around that you had not seen before?
Not that I haven't seen before, but I was making note of vehicles that were in the movie, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually. But
It's a real like Too Fast, like, hey guys, what's in your hands version of like, hey Dom, what's on your road?
Yes. Yeah, hey Dom, I like that. That's fun. I had two major takeaways. The first one is just like an observation that knowing how Fast 10 starts, like in the gentlest of spoilers, seeing Brian learn how to drive in the same parking lot that Baby B learns how to drive in, which just made that moment very like have much more gravity to it, and I like that a lot. That like oftentimes we like are like, oh, they call back the wrong things or don't like they miss layups in places that they could take them. This is like really awesome, and like now watching the first one again, seeing it essentially start the exact same way 10 starts is just like really, really cool to me as a huge fan.
I was also thinking about, it's not that at all, but the difference between the first one and the most recent one, but like at the end here when Johnny Tran gets shot in the side and like it's in a place like I'm sure like for normal people like would probably kill them, but like getting to where we've gotten and like knowing how basically invulnerable all these people are, I'm like, that's like a flesh wound, man. Like, and like he's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is like a reality, like a groundedness in this early one that Brian like wings his like, left ribs, and he's just like, no, he's out. And it's just like, well, multiple people have literally come back from the dead in these movies. And it's like, well, that guy, kind of got winged by a bullet, but I guess he's out.
The only other thing was early on in the movie, I had a question for you. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I want to get your take on it. Knowing like all the character development, stuff like that, do you think that Letty is mischaractered here by her not going back to save Dom? Like she just goes back to the house and just chills. And that's something I can't see a Letty in any other movie that she's in doing, essentially.
So I have an answer to that, but Saleah, what did you think of the Michelle Rodriguez character, the portrayal here? I don't know if you know anything about Letty as the movies go on, but like, about Michelle Rodriguez. What do you think of her specifically in this movie?
I don't know too much about how her character develops later on. I know that she's still like a very big part of the franchise. I liked the character. I think it's also because I like Michelle Rodriguez. Like, I just think that she has like a very cool demeanor, and she just is like
easy to like. Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I liked the character of Letty, but it did seem like there wasn't like a ton of her. Like I feel like she wasn't utilized as well, maybe like as I'm assuming maybe later on. Because it just seemed like I thought the scenes that she was in, like she was great, but it kind of seemed like she could have been in it more. Like I kind of wanted to like know more about her if that, you know, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just that's kind of what I thought too.
Were there any characters in particular that you found yourself drawn to that you're like, this is actually, either more so than you thought, or just, if you went in there with an open mind, like something that you really caught your attention, really grabbed your eye?
Um, I I actually, I mean, that's a good question. I do like the character of Mia. I don't know, I thought that
Hmm.
was great. I kind of like how she just kind of introduced at first, as just kind of, I guess you kind of get the sense that like her and Brian are gonna get together, but I don't know, there's something
Yeah.
like very charming and soft about her character at first, but then you realize that like she's, you know, I guess bigger than that, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I like the character of Mia, and I also do like Joanna Brewster. So, um, yeah, I think that's maybe a character I think would I'd say stand out because like I think all the other characters like Brian and Vin Diesel, like I feel like Vin Diesel too, like Dom, he just is like once he's on the screen, it's like, well, you know who this is, and he has
Right.
just strong presence. So it's like you kind of already know about like him being the main character and stuff. Like he is the main character, he has strong main character energy like, from the first
Yeah,
movie.
I love Mia. Mia is one of, if not my favorite
But
character.
I have
And
bad
the
news.
the downside, yeah, sort of vague spoilers for future movies. But as Paul Walker passes away in real life, the franchise is like, okay, how do we rewrite these movies basically without our star? And the way that they did it is like, well, now Mia's not in them either because like Brian and Mia are together, and she's like, well, that's not fair to Jordana Brewster. Like they kind of bring her back, but they still like even multiple movies in still don't really know how to give her something to do without him really there. And
Yeah.
it's just disappointing because like even back here, like you're pointing out, like it's defined and she's got a role and she's got a part and she's got dynamics and everything, and then they're just like, well, Mia can't be around because Brian's on her. It's like, no, Mia's her own person. Like Mia has a whole thing. Like she's got the whole Dom thing, right? Like it's a whole like other whatever.
And
So
emotionally, she's huge to the
mhm.
family too, you know? So, like, them trying to downplay her screen time to balance not having Paul Walker when she is actually a really gigantic part of how this works and the dynamics kind of sucks. But yes, we are with you. I do love Jordana Brewster and Mia too.
Now, while we are talking about characters, there's some really, really, truly hard-hitting either-or questions that there's, again, no wrong answers to. This is all personality-based. You can either explain yourself or not. But are you ready for two very, very difficult either-or questions and then two open-ended questions?
Yes.
All right. Do you think, again, you can either explain your answer or live forever shrouded in mystery. Do you think you are more of a Brian or a Dom?
Oh, that's a good question. I
Thank you.
I don't
I don't know if my ramp up of like joking about how like difficult it is like actually like helps sell it or like undercut. I don't know what it does, but
I don't know either, but I like it.
Yeah, I don't think that I'd be a dom. I feel like he's too intense, and I don't think that I'm like that intense of a person. But I mean, I guess maybe Brian, but the fact that he's a cop kind of makes me be like, I don't, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess if I were a
well, that
cop,
career path takes a journey in these movies. Let me tell
exactly.
you.
Yeah. No, I heard that it kind of, definitely changes, and it kind
Hmm.
of tell like even at the end, just kind of the choices he made, with Dom and helping out and stuff. It's just, yeah, there's obviously there's gonna be like a shift there. And I guess I will find that out eventually. But yeah, I guess I would say Brian just based on like personality wise. But yeah, I think the him being a cop gives me a pause because I'm like, I'd never be a cop. So but
Then you might know where the second question is going. Do you find yourself, are you more of a Mia or a Letty?
definitely Mia.
Okay. I would imagine most normal people do not pick up on this because it's basically an afterthought. We didn't even notice it until like 7 times through. No, we didn't. No, and it wasn't until the minute, right? When we broke
It
this down
wasn't
minute by
until the
minute.
minute. Yep, it was the minute.
If you'll remember in this movie, there's a scene where Mia and Brian are doing dishes and they're kind of getting flirty, they're kind of getting cute, whatever. And Vince walks into the kitchen drunk and starts like making fun of Brian, trying to get the microwave to work, doesn't really work. And Mia says to Vince, hey, Vince, what's the name of that restaurant you want to bring us to? The Cuban place, the picadillo, the red candles, the wood tables, the food all over the place. And Vince is like, oh, cha-cha-cha. And Mia says, yeah, Brian, you can bring me there. So we're like, oh, that's, a funny scene that, Mia asked Vince, like, what the name of his place is, and then, uses it against him, leverage. But then as we're breaking it down line by line, minute by minute, we're like, she uses the phrase food all over the place. And we don't know what that means. So, Saleah, if we're like, hey, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Next time you're in New York or whatever, like, let's go out. We got this great restaurant. It's got great picadillo. It's got little red candles, wood tables. It's got food all over the place. What does that mean to you? Like, if we describe a restaurant as having food all over the place, what
mental
are you picturing
imagery
in your head?
Yeah, no, it's funny because I remember that line specifically, just because I was thinking about it because it made me hungry because I was like, oh, I love food.
So you think it's a good thing? It maybe it's a good thing.
But then also I was like, wait, I remember also thinking that I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. I guess like if I'm kind of putting like a mental image to it, it's just like, I guess just like food literally everywhere, just like all over the place. Maybe like a food fight or something. I don't know. I couldn't I also remember thinking that was like an interesting line that kind of stood out.
It can play appetizing or food fight very quickly. That's why it's so
like maybe it's like a rowdy restaurant, people throwing food around, who knows.
Okay. Because I think the beauty of the question is that it makes no sense. There's no right answer. We talk about, if we want to interview, like there's part of me that's like, I don't want to meet our heroes. Like, I don't want to meet the people who if we interview one of these people and like, it's a bad interview, like, I don't want to like the movies less. But there's a question like, hey, Jordana Brewster, we have one question for you. What does that mean? And if she doesn't know, that could be the end of it. You know what I mean? But like, I want to know if that was written in the script. I want to know if she improvised it. I don't know if that was like what she meant to say. But it's a very specific question that we are very eternally confused by.
Yeah, it'll haunt you guys forever. Unless you know the answer.
All right. There's one other question that we normally do for the 7th movie because it's sort of related to a 7th movie scene, but it really anybody can answer this question. So pretend the three of us run a heist, right? Joe and I are like, Saleah, we have to go in the other room. I have to lift up a car with my bare hands. Spoiler for something that happens in Fury 7. And Joe's going to get under the engine and like steal something out, whatever. We need you to distract this room of people the way that only you can do. We need you to sing a song karaoke style to distract this entire room of strangers. What song are you singing? What song are you most confident in? Or what could you do so bad that people can't take your eyes off? What song are you singing karaoke style to distract an entire room of strangers?
I think I might have to just go with my go-to karaoke song with this because I know all the words, but maybe probably Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Nice. That's a good one.
I don't know, because maybe people would be like, why is she suddenly singing Dancing Queen by ABBA? Who knows? But
and they were like, why aren't we all singing Dancing Queen by ABBA?
That would probably be like, if I'm thinking off the top of my head and like having to think quick about it, I'd probably just go with my go-to karaoke song. So
I love
it. Yeah, it's a good one. I don't think we've gotten Dancing Queen before.
Now I have 2 questions specific to this movie that we don't really, these are new questions I just thought of this time. Because again, 13th time watching the movie, I got new questions. So Saleah, I think you might be able to, this is again, personal preference. So if you'll remember, Johnny Tran and his group of guys on bikes surround Dom and Brian. They blow up the car, which again, inclusion of a vehicle, it's not a car. And they blow up the car, and Dom is telling Brian like the bad blood between them, right?
Yeah.
And Brian's like, we got a 20-mile hike, man. You got time. At some point, like that scene ends, the next scene begins, they call a cab and they get to 1327. How far into a, quote, 20-mile hike do you think you would walk before you're like, why are we doing this? We have Uber on our phone.
Yeah, probably at least a few miles. I actually like to walk. I like running. Okay. So I actually probably would walk maybe like a couple of miles before I'm like, okay, especially if it's like this, because I know it happened at night in the movie. Like if it's night, I'm definitely like, I don't know, maybe I guess it's dependent on the time of day. So if it's like the same time that happened in the movie, I probably would maybe walk a little bit before I'm like, okay, it's late, let's call an Uber. But if it's like daytime or like earlier in the day, I'd be like, you know what, I don't mind taking a hike or a stroll for like a mile or two and then being like, all right, let's get out of here. And also weather's dependent. I know Cali's very hot, so I don't know how far I'd be able to make it anyway. But
yeah, I guess also like I don't know that there's anywhere in LA to anywhere else in LA that's 20 miles. Like I'm sure it's exaggeration, but like if you think about like, hey, we're gonna walk and bond for 20 miles. Joe, how far did you walk before you called the car?
I was about to say, Saleah, you are such a bigger person than I am, because I would have made it 3 steps in the best of California weather before I called an Uber. If I had my phone with me, I would have been like, how far away is this thing? What's the price right now? I'm calling one. Check the other app, Joey, and we're gonna get this ride.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I guess I've been to Cali a few times. I've been in LA a little bit. I haven't spent too much time in California, so not as familiar with the weather. I'm assuming that if I
It's
was there,
beautiful all the time, usually.
yeah, but if it's like hot or like, yeah, I would probably call an Uber right away. Not gonna lie.
Now, my other question is when they call the cab, they go to the party. Dom invites Brian in. Brian and Vince have their face off, whatever. And then Brian asks Dom, "Hey Dom, do you have a bathroom?" And Dom says, "Yeah, it's upstairs." Are we to believe that there's no downstairs bathroom in that entire house?
Sometimes it happens. Possibly. I don't think so. That house is too big.
That house is big.
I think maybe that's more of like a welcoming thing. Like he's saying, Brian, you can use my bathroom, like the good upstairs bathroom. You know what I mean? Like when you're at like a house party and they're like, "There's the bathroom," but then your buddy's like, "There's one upstairs."
You can use any bathroom you want,
as long as
mine
it's
upstairs.
Yeah, yeah, as long as it's mine. Yeah.
Well, actually, on that, Saleah, were there any quotes from this movie that you had heard? Like, there are things that we say a lot that, like, we feel are famous or well-known, but I think it's only to people who have seen these movies. But, like, were there any movies or, like, moments from this that you're like, oh, that's what that's from? Or no? If the answer is no, that's also fine.
No, whenever Vin Diesel talks about how he lives life at a quarter mile, I've heard that one before.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's a huge one, yeah.
That is one that I'm like, oh yeah, that one is the one, because I've definitely heard it. And also everyone's speaking about Nas. I just seen it a lot in memes, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's like people are always like, yeah, it's a big part of like the movie, especially like the first few, and so it's like seeing it. I guess it's more of like a thing than a quote, but those were kind of some things I knew about the movie before that I was like, oh yeah, there it is.
And also going back to what you're saying before about this feeling very early 2000s, like the inside the engine computer CGI of the Nas going in there and like
that's one of my favorites.
It's like, oh no, this is a very specific time and place. Like they still do that from time to time, but it's like only because they did it here. But like that's like, ooh, we're 2001, we're super cool with this CGI.
I had that exact same thought, Joey, when you get to the final race scene and for some reason it starts to like dilate and their faces are like tracing, you know what I mean? Like very slowly. And when I saw that this time, I was like, oh yeah, we don't have that anymore.
That's some artistic shit, man. That's, that's the Suki thing, right? Just like, that's some artistic shit.
It is.
It's like, why? How can we really spice this up? It's like, I don't know, you're racing cars to jump in front of a train. Like, you don't need to spice it up. It's like, what if we slowed it down and made it blurry? It's like, all right, I guess
that looked cool, right? Yeah.
What other, so I guess to put a button on the theme, what other than the cars, there's the Johnny Tran crotch rockets, as they're called in this, but what other non-car vehicles were in this movie?
Let me start with like the most obvious. You get a helicopter.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. You get the train that you just mentioned that they try to jump. Yep. I consider the dirt bikes a separate vehicle because they have both motorcycles and dirt bikes.
So the murder dirt bikes are different than the motorcycles from early on.
Yes, because these are like definitively dirt bikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you asked me about this one. At Neptune's Net, there's a bunch of people holding surfboards. They're not using them, but they're holding them.
Oh, yeah. Saleah, do you think a surfboard is a vehicle? I don't know. I asked Joe. He said he thinks it is. Is a surfboard a vehicle?
No, I've never considered. I surf a little bit, but I wouldn't consider it like a vehicle. I think, so I don't think so.
Now, is a skateboard a vehicle?
I don't think so. Maybe because it has wheels. I don't know. But
is there a difference? Okay, so here's a more specific question. Is there a difference between vehicle and method of transportation? Because I think a skateboard is undeniably a method of transportation.
Definitely. Yeah.
I don't know if a surfboard is a method of transportation.
I don't know.
You're right. That's the problem.
I wouldn't be able to. I mean, if someone can like bring it, because I feel like a lot of times if you can use it to get to like one place or to bring something, maybe, but I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean,
I'm trying to think of like what like famous surfing movies there are. There's Point Break, which we've already have we done for this? We've done for this podcast, right? I think in the Heist Lap, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like Endless Summer, the documentary, which rules. It's also like really dated and like not exactly good to women, but also for the 1960s documentary about surfing, it's pretty cool. But I think that's like, is that the end of the list? Like, there's not that many surfing movies.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a few Disney Channel ones that came to the top of my head. Like,
Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, surfing. Yeah, Lilo and Stitch. I was thinking,
there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, Johnny Tsunami, that one like Disney Channel movie might be like.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
Carrot Top and Chairman of the Board. I just Googled surfing movies. That's one of the big ones. Oh, The Shallows, where Blake Lively has Steven Seagal as her friend. She's on a surfboard for most of that movie, but that's not really a vehicle. But
Oh,
yeah,
Blue
okay.
Crush.
Blue Crush.
Blue Crush, definitely.
Which we've done for the Michelle Rodriguez
Yep.
lap. So there are Surf's Up, a great, actually another sort of mockumentary that Shia LaBeouf is in that when Mike and I did that one, we're like, whoa, that movie's actually really good. There's actually a decent number of surf movies. Okay.
If you're a patron and want us to watch a surf movie, I think it could count as your pick for this lap.
Very true. Joe, any other thoughts about the Fast and the Furious?
Wait, one last thing. And I was looking for it.
Oh, there's another vehicle.
Yes. When they do the scene where they race the Ferrari, smoke them, there's a woman pushing a bicycle that goes right by the window in the back of there. Because I was looking for a bicycle, because I was like, there has to be at least a bicycle in this movie. So she's walking beside it, just like wheeling her bicycle. And a bonus one is that when the cops are setting up the raid, on the building behind them, there's a bicycle painted on the wall.
Oh, very important.
Yeah.
In that scene where the smoke 'em, like, Dom looks afraid in a way that he is very rarely afraid in these movies. Like, he looks, maybe it's because Brian is driving and he's, not sure about Brian yet, but like when Brian like weaves through oncoming traffic, like in a later movie,
he is
Dom's
bracing
gonna sit there
himself. Yeah.
stoic. He's gonna be like, you got this, man. Especially like the whole stare and drive in the second movie, like Brian can clearly like steer without looking, but like Dom looks terrified in a way that I'm like, oh, that's a different Dom than we get later on.
I think so too. Like you said, like he's holding on. He's bracing himself for dear life, and it is a level of fear that we really don't see out of Dom ever. Yeah.
Saleah, do you have any other notes, any other thoughts about this movie? But we have a couple games, and we have a very important character quiz that we're going to give you. Did you have any other notes, any other thoughts, anything else you wanted to share about this very first Fast and Furious movie?
I don't think so. I feel like it covered kind of the first reactions, things I thought about characters. No, I don't think I have any additional thoughts.
Now, are you going to continue watching these movies?
Yes. Yeah, I will. I don't know when.
Oh, nice.
But I think I will. I feel like I started it. I feel like I gotta, when I start a movie series, I always want to finish it, even if it takes time. Like I'm gonna so yeah, I think I was actually thinking about watching Too Fast, Too Furious before too, just so I had, can be like, yeah, I saw both of them. But
whoa, okay.
No, which I do. The one fact I know about Too Fast, Too Furious is that it's the only one that doesn't have Vin Diesel in it. Is that correct?
Mostly correct, yes.
Okay. I just remember reading about that, I think, when I was like looking up something, but and I know that like Tyrese Gibson is introduced in it as well. Yep. So those are like kind of the facts I know about the second one.
So now here's a very big question for you. You have time to consider, because it sounds like you got other fish to fry before you get to these movies. But chronologically, 3 takes place after 6. So are you going to watch them in release order, or are you going to watch them chronologically?
No, I don't know. Because I know that there's sometimes in movie series where they'll like release it and tell you to watch a certain way. I don't remember if I've done that where I've watched it if I prefer watching it in chronological. I feel like I usually go chronologically because I'm like, well, I just want to see like what it was like when it came out, like what the because sometimes it's like different, like when it comes out. Just
there's merit to that, yeah, for sure.
But then also I like things to be in order when I watch things as well. So I don't know. I mean,
if you're looking for logic and order, this is not the franchise for you.
No, it's funny because some of my friends who aren't like big Fast and Furious fans, like I was asking them if they watched the movies. It seems like the ones that like people I've seen like know that have watched it, that have only maybe watched like a few of the movies. I've always been told that they watched Tokyo Drift. Like that's the most common one that people have
really
watched. Yeah, I think I talked to like 3 friends before this, and I'm like, have you seen the Fast and Furious movies? And they were like, I've only seen Tokyo Drift. And I just thought that was interesting that was like the one.
Did you get a sense from them if they like that or not?
I don't know. I think like the general, I guess I should have asked them, but I guess they were like, yeah, it was fine. Because I mean, they're not like big, like. Right. But I also read, like, now that I think about it, Tokyo Drift was one of the movies when I think, because that came out, when did that come out? In 2006. Okay. So I would have been in middle school, I think. No, I think I would have started high school. I don't know. Time is like, so who knows, but I was
flat circle.
And I remember that one being the one people talked about. And I remember like the song from it, like that.
Oh, it's a great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the music from it. So that is one that I do remember that like a lot of people talked about when it came out, whenever I was in school. So I guess there's just something about Tokyo Drift that people have seen, even if they don't like it or not like it. But that's just like something that I've noticed.
It's a movie that I think most fans love. Most casual moviegoers don't understand. It's also become like kind of just like the Electric Boogaloo, like the Tokyo Drift has become a meme in terms of like adding weird suffixes to titles. I would guess the way that you approach this first movie, I think you would probably enjoy the third movie.
It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, just generally.
It's just basically not at all connected to the first two. So just sort of know that going in, but also, report back, like if whenever, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you watch one of these movies, tweet at us, email us, whatever, and let us know how it went.
Absolutely. I mean,
okay.
Maybe I'll jump back into laugh at one point when I, so.
All right. So before we play the Twitter game, which I told you about, which you sent in the tweet already, we're going to do a character quiz. So this is like sort of a BuzzFeed style, J14 style personality quiz. There's no wrong answers, but at the end of this quiz, there's 7 questions. They're all multiple choice. We will know which Fast and Furious character you are most like. Are you ready for this personality quiz?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We found a quiz online like years ago. We're like, this is kind of bad. We made our own. We are, spoiler alert to the listeners, going to be, again, maybe in a week, probably not in a month, probably not in a year, maybe, update us even more characters. But for now, there are 20 different outcomes, the same as there's always been. Question number 1, Saleah, how fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter? How fast are you?
I don't think I'm that fast. Maybe Razor scooter, maybe Vespa.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Good answer.
Which one? Pick one.
I guess I'll go to Vespa.
Okay. Question number 2. You know it's coming. How furious are you? Are you the Hulk? Are you Kylo Ren? Are you Christian Bale on that one movie set that one time? Are you Mel Gibson? Are you Charlie Brown? Or are you Jack McBrayer?
Maybe Kylo Ren. I do get mad.
That's pretty furious.
I don't know.
All right.
Really,
Okay.
No, I don't think I'm that mad. I get mad pretty easily about certain things, but I don't think I get like that. Maybe I'll just go with Charlie Brown. I think I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Saleah, we're having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you on the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Or are you sneaking a snack?
Probably kicking back with a beer.
Okay.
Nice.
You've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite? Working on your car? Hanging with friends? Drinking a beer, once again? Working out? Or doing work on your computer?
I'm hanging with friends.
Okay. Whoa. There's still 3 questions yet. I don't think we've had this character yet. So
okay,
very
interesting.
exciting. Okay. Saleah, describe your wedding. I'm never getting married. It's just me and my partner. It's us and our families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone I know is there. I don't remember.
Probably backyard country affair.
I also cannot stress enough how not Dominic Toretto you are. Like, I've never seen a number this low. Like, basically the opposite. Like, every single question you've asked, it's just like, nope, not Dom.
No,
so,
I mean, at the beginning when you asked me if I was Brian or Dom, I was like, I know already that I'm not.
Yeah,
you were
like
right.
It's like in
correct.
a presidential election. It's just like, I'm not voting for that person, so I'm going to vote for this person. It's like, I'm not Dom, so I guess by process of elimination, I'm Brian. Okay. Congratulations, you just won the lottery. What are you buying? Your own garage, a private plane, I'm gambling it all away, my childhood home, a fleet of cars, or a new life?
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe new life.
Okay. The final question to determine it all. What is your drink of choice? Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or Joe's going to the bar. I'll just have one of whatever you're having.
Probably something fruity.
Okay. Got good news for you. You are Mia Toretto.
Yay!
Nailed it.
Gambling
Wow.
means everything to you, but people often mistake you for being meek or non-confrontational. You tend to take on a supporting role and let others handle the more exciting tasks because it's more important to you to know that someone's watching over everyone else than to seek glory for yourself. Even so, you're not afraid to jump into the fray when your family is on the line and you drive like the wind blows. Does that at all sound like you?
It does. Yeah, I think there's elements there.
Well, congratulations. You are a Mia just like me. So we are birds of the same feather. Okay. The final thing to do before we say goodbye is this ain't no 10-second race, aka boy, do we have a podcast for you. So as we go on twitter.com, aka the Bird app, and find any tweet from anyone who should be listening to the podcast, isn't yet, and we respond with some kind of message, and also, boy, do we have a podcast for you, link to the show. Quickly, to refresh people from our 2 months ago episode, I found Lavinus Negra at Abundance King, quote tweeting, so Devin Aoki's in the second movie, plays a character named Suki, and there was an account called Pop Culture 2000, just put a picture of Suki in there. And this person said, why she never came back, because in 10 movies, she's the most iconic character of your franchise, at Vin Diesel. And we said, all we want in these movies is for Suki to come back. Boy, to have a podcast for you. Reaction Rocket liked it and replied, and yet Lavinus Negra could not be bothered to even throw us a like. I get 0 points. You see, like, so that's what I'm talking about. Like, this is someone who is like, we love Suki. We love these movies. It's not like they have like 1 million followers. We're even like giving more engagement. They're just like, nope, get out of my life.
Yeah.
Joe, you found DJ at Kill DJ Kill. They just played a trailer for Fast 10, and oh my God, I am so excited. We said, oh, and they had like in their profile, like it was like The Rock or whatever. We said we were so hyped we would just watch season 3 of Young Rock to get ready for Fast 10. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Of course not. Why would they?
Nothing.
And then Montez found this Barbie is not Jess at It's Not Jess 123. I know I said I wouldn't watch 9 Fast and Furious movies just because Brie Larson's in the 10th one, but I think I'm going to watch 9 Fast and Furious movies just because Brie Larson's in the 10th one. And we said we love that Captain Marvel is now in the Fast and Furious franchise. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. And basically just like her entire lap, Montez swung and missed. No dice there.
Oh.
So Saleah, you sent 2 tweets. I think the one that I would like, I think that we're going to have better chance with is the one from Lauren Hadaway. So can you, if you have that in front of you, can you please read that aloud to us? And then also think about how you want us to respond, if you want to like personalize it anyway, or joke and help you if you need it. But please read us Lauren Hadaway's tweet.
I do have it in front of me. It says, the Fast and the Furious movies are American Bollywood, and that makes me like them more.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool. Yes.
So how do you want to, I mean, I know that you've only seen one of these movies, but is there a way that you want to customize this? A way you want to hook Lauren to be like, hey, we love the same kind of thing, or anything? Basically, there's no way to be wrong because almost the default is that we are wrong.
Yeah.
I got an idea, kind of, if you want it.
I don't know if I have an idea of how to respond to it. I mean, I think, you know, given that a lot of Bollywood movies also kind of have the similar structure of like, they get kind of, some of them are over the top and like ridiculous. I know the Fast and the Furious movies are, get, you know, kind of more over the top as the movies get on. I feel like I'd maybe mention that element of it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to hearing Joe's idea, so.
I was going to throw in, Joey, how about we're still waiting for that Torque Fast and the Furious crossover? Wasn't that the Bollywood Fast and the Furious movie's name? What was it called?
No,
it wasn't Torque. What was it called, though?
We did it for
I
Film
watched
Club.
it.
Oh, what was it? There's like a series of like 3 or 4 Bollywood movies. Hold on.
That are motorcycle movies that are essentially like Bollywood Fast and the Furiouses.
Doom. DHOOM.
Yes, that's what I was going to reference. Because if they're talking about Bollywood and we can give them a little Bollywood juice in there, maybe they'll come to the...
I think that sounds like a good idea.
Come to the responses.
Also, I will say that if you are interested in Bollywood movies, stay tuned this lap because we are doing a very big Bollywood movie later this summer. So,
are we? Okay, cool.
Are we or are we?
Ah.
Anyway,
okay.
We're still waiting for that Doom Fast and Furious crossover. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. All right, Lauren. Balls in your court. Please send Saleah. Saleah, if you get any points here, like it's such a win.
It's win.
Unbelievable. Even like we were even hoping people just be like, stop tweeting at me. Like
leave me alone.
Of, like, please just notice us would be nice. All right, Joe, please hit us with your tweet.
I have a tweet from Iron Metal Man at Aldo Metal Man. Fast X, Fast and Furious, Fast 10 was excellent. An easy 10 of 10. Great part 1 of a finale. Jason Momoa, easily the best villain in any movie in a long time. Just choose it up. Can't wait for part 2 with the additions. Definite argument for Fast franchise being one of the best ever. I mean, you could just gush. Which part of this do you want to take?
Ooh, I mean, this is yours. I think the Momoa thing is really good. I think, we've got ideas for what could come next. Anything you want to go.
We were also blown away by the first one. Second, your take on Momoa, and we can't wait to see what part 2 has in store. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
We were also blown away by Fast 10. Second, your take on Momoa, and we also can't wait to see what's next. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. Oh no, did they stop paying for... Oh man, Universal stopped paying for the little emoji next to Fast X.
Oh,
when you tweet, there's sometimes a little icon next to it. Fast and Furious and Fast 10
you have to pay
no
for
longer.
That? I didn't know you had to pay for that.
I mean, in Elon's world, everything has a price tag, right? So, in Mr. Tweet. All right, I found bow and arrow emoji at Ray Daisy. So someone likes Star Wars. Bring back Tess for Fast 10 Part 2, please. And I'm saying her story, not nearly done.
No, definitely
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. All right, we have sent these tweets out into the ether, assuming nothing's ever going to come from them. But, maybe one day they will. Who knows? I don't know. But, Saleah, you need to know, we've done this every episode. We've done this probably 120 times, I would guess, by now. And Joe and I have a total of 140 points. And, those have come in, and I know that's, hard to quantify, but, a like is 1, a retweet's 2. Usually, you can get, 10 or 12 in a single go if it gets really popular. It is so... Our success
Impossible.
rate is so low. Yet we persist. We try. So, hopefully, maybe... Lauren will throw you a like and we'll get a point, but who knows? More likely, probably not. But Saleah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
For doing the hard-hitting journalism of finding out how people like these movies, and for beginning your personal Fast and Furious journey with the very first movie.
That's the real win here, is that Saleah has started joining us in the franchise, and she will continue on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Am I the first person that's watched it for the first time that's been on the podcast? Are most of the people that...
No, we've had a couple different people. We've also had a couple of different people watch other movies in the franchise as their first movie. We're like, they all work. And they're like, that didn't work. But no, I mean, I would say overwhelmingly we have guests on who are like, I love these movies. I haven't seen all of them, or I've seen all of them, or whatever. I have thoughts, but we've had a handful. But generally speaking, most people are pretty positive, but I would say you had a warmer reaction than many, I will say.
You did.
But thank you once again for joining us. What would you like to plug? Where can people find you online? Where can they read your work? Where can they find out what you're doing on the internet?
I have a daily newsletter I send out. It's Morning Consult Entertainment. They can go on the Morning Consult site to just subscribe for that. I'm also on Twitter. Handle is Saleah. And if you want me to spell that, or you can, put it in the...
We'll tag you in the tweet and stuff. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's it. You can find me on Twitter. You can subscribe to my newsletter. Yeah.
Wonderful. Is there anything exciting, because we are in blockbuster movie season now for the summer? Is there anything exciting coming out that you are, if you want to tease or just announce or whatever, that anything blockbuster movie related for the summer that you're working on?
Yeah, I just released a summer movie preview, kind of looking at the movies people are excited.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this summer. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny seems to be the biggest one that people are looking forward to see. I know Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the second most one. That one comes out this week. So I know those are kind of the two, at least based on Morning Consult data, for the ones that people were most excited to see. And we might also have a few, surveys and stories in store too, but that's just one that we actually just published last week. And my personal, I'm most excited for Barbie. So
probably
gonna be talking about that.
Did you see Ryan Gosling's quote today about being Ken?
I did. Yeah, I was reading that. So it was the GQ.
What was it? I missed.
So Joe and I have a Ryan Gosling podcast. We watch all his movies, and we're just now, catching up as he puts them out. But Ryan Gosling says the criticism of his casting as Ken is, quote, funny. Quote, like, you ever thought about Ken before this? If you ever really cared about Ken, you would know nobody cared about Ken. So your hypocrisy is exposed. This is why his story must be told.
Amazing. Good for him. That's fun.
This Barbie is a Ken. Our next episode, we get another bonus episode of Fast 10 Fourth Gear coming out this Friday with Nico and Kevo. Then I'm not going to announce, it's the first time and only time I'm not going to announce what next week's episode is, just because, Joe, it's the thing that we're doing.
Oh, I know.
Tobin.
I saw it. Yep.
And I wanted it to be a surprise. So we got a pit stop next week. Going to be a surprise, still's on the feed. And then another bonus episode with Montez next Friday for Fast 10 once again. And then we're back into the normal thing with the Life in the Fast Lane, number 13
Thank
after that.
God.
But two more, we got nothing but time and nothing but Fast 10. I've only seen the movie once, so.
Same. I need to go see it again before we watch it. Yeah, eventually.
But, stay tuned. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFast2Forever, or at TooFast2Forever on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFast2Forever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. Hall of Fame, Too Fast, Too Forever, Hall of Fame, Fast and Furious voting, open now, still at cageclub.me/vote. And come back on Friday for our Fast 10 episode with Nico and Kevo. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Saleah Blancaflor of Morning Consult, and we will tell you all about it
when we see you again.